Right, shalom, shalom. Before I start off this lesson, I'd like to first and foremost give all honor, glory, and praise to our Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakakudash. Double honors to our venerated apostles and elders of Great Millstone, taught us truth and rule well. Now the true leaders of the nation of Israel, which consists of so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, down in the speckled bird, Israelite, foreign and scattered abroad. And Brother Shamaria, back with another lesson, okay? And I wanted to update you on this Third World War and biblical prophecy, okay? And the tensions brewing between the nations, man. Just goes to show you that truly the kingdom of heaven, man, is near. All right, Yahweh Shai, our Lord, is getting ready to make his return, man. All right, and we see it by way of the signs, man, the tokens. All right, that Yahweh Shai, told us to watch for in his coming. Okay, the various things he explained to his disciples, that would be seen in these latter times, man. We're in those times now. Okay, so as Matthew, the 24th chapter, details, wars and rumors of wars. Matter of fact, I'm gonna start with that, all right? Because everything is these proxies that are being fought, all right? Israel, okay, has its proxies, all right? And they've been going at it with Iran, okay? And Iran has its own militias, all right, that they back, okay? You have the Houthis, all right, which more recently making noise, okay, and they're getting involved. All right, all these things are brewing up to a larger escalation, man. Okay, and like we said, all right, this is just the beginning, man. All right, just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. Okay. And things still have to come to pass, okay, and play out here in the earth. This is the book of Matthew 24, and I'll just start at 4, okay? Yahweh Shai answered and said unto them, he was speaking unto his disciples, man. All right, take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Hamashiach, all right? Or in other words, you have individuals that are going to come out and, claim themselves to be the Lord, all right? But also, those that, think they know something, okay? Think themselves to be anointed, all right? Which Christ, means anointed, all right? Many shall come in my name, and that as well. You know, you're going to have individuals that claim to come in the name of the Lord. Okay, but these individuals are teaching, you know, wayward doctrine, man. Wayward ideologies. All right, and you know, the scriptures tell you that with him is strength and wisdom, the deceived and the deceiver are his. So you have individuals that are out here to you know, pretty much bait in the undesirables. All right. And of course, you know, you have individuals that are going to claim to, you know this truth, you know, which they may have bits here and there, you know, but you're not going to find, you know, the 100% truth outside of Great Millstone. Okay, and those that are teaching the like doctrine, okay, you know, and doing so without any gimmicks, man, you know, doing so freely, all right, risking their lives to, you know, proclaim the truth, all right, this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of Yahweh Shemel Shai in truth and sincerity, man. All right, they're gonna give you the 100%, you know, truth without, you know, any filter. All right, and as the days go on, okay, and it, you know, things play out, you're gonna see who the true men of the Lord are. All right, and again, mind you, that you have false teachers out there, man. All right, false prophets, okay, which have been set up, you know, to deceive. All right, deceive the undesirables, man, of the nation of Israel. Okay, it says, "For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, all right, or anointed, and shall deceive many. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars," man. And this is pretty much what you see, okay? You know, conflicts, you know, are happening. All right, you got tensions amongst these nations, man, and it's just the very beginning. All these things are gonna brew up to a bigger escalation. But as we read on, it says, "See that you be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." All right, the end is not yet because things still have to play out. All right, you know, the RFID microchip, which is the mark of the beast, pursuing Revelation 13 and 16, will be mandated, all right, worldwide. That, you know, going into the hour of temptation, Revelation 3 and 10, all right? You see that you be not troubled, you know, and the elect, all right, of the Lord, you know, those that the Lord is predestined to get deliverance in these end times, all right, are going to have, you know, stability and peace of mind in these last days, man. Okay, especially as things begin to escalate on a, you know, major scale, all right, you know, societal collapse, you know, things begin to take root in the earth, the prophecies, man, all right, the plagues, you know, judgments that the Heavenly Father is going to bring forth, you know, in his visitation, man. All right, the elect are going to be stable, are going to have a stable mind in this time. Okay, as it tells you in Isaiah, the 33rd chapter and the 6th verse, "Knowledge and wisdom shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation." All right. And the fear of the Lord is his treasure, man. All right, roughly paraphrase. Okay. And because you know, of a truth, all right, this truth itself, okay, you know, the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of Yahweh Bashim El Shai is what's gonna lead unto, you know, salvation, man. All right, and you know, that's what's gonna be a comfort. All right, the words of our Lord Yahweh Shai, man, and you know, the various accounts of our forefathers going through straight situations, man, and the Lord was with them. All right, in these days, also the Lord is going to be with His men, okay, and the rest of the men, you know, women and children are the 1/3. All right, but it says, see, it's just, you shall hear wars and rumors of wars, Salakia. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. But nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All right, which, you know, all you have to do is do a quick search on Google. You could pull up recent earthquakes. All right, and they're by the dozens, man. They're left and right. All right, major one just hit Venezuela. You know, there were a couple recently off the coast of Oregon, I think, or, you know, somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, I believe. All right, but you know, they're happening, you know, very frequently. There shall be famines, which you know, due to the escalation over there in the east. All right, you have certain straits into, you know, major trade routes being blockaded, man, you know, slowing down because of conflict. All right, that in itself can contribute to global, you know, food shortages, man. All right, which you have economists and, you know, officials, if you will, coming out and saying that, you know, coming out and breaking down, you know, breaking these things down. All right, which we're breaking it down, all right, through the scriptures, man. We're telling you that these things are going to come, you know, because that's biblical prophecy, man. All right, and everything that the Lord said will happen in these end times is going to happen. All right, all these are the beginning of sorrows. So this is just all really the beginning, man. The beginning of sorrows, man. The very tip of the iceberg. Okay, because remember, you know, it's a buildup. It's a buildup onto the destruction of this place, America, primarily. All right, but other parts of the world are gonna feel things as well. You know, so let's see. Yeah, this is a part 2. As I was saying, you know, the U.S. landmass will be completely destroyed by thermonuclear missiles as a result of this Third World War. All right, and you can clearly see how the Lord is putting the chess pieces together. All right, and you know, gathering the nations, as it tells you in Joel, the 2nd chapter, Joel, the 3rd chapter. All right, you know, for this bigger escalation, this bigger conflict. All right, I'm gonna grab a few headlines going into, you know, what's been going on as recent. All right, and you know, right now you're seeing how alliances are forming. All right, and you know, the closer we get to you know, that pretty much the height of this thing, okay, you're gonna see Ezekiel 38 play out. You know, Russia being a guard into you know, Persia, Iran, these other nations, okay. Ezekiel 39. All right, 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter. All right, you know, the latter verses, okay. I believe it was 2nd Ezra 15, okay. And you know, one thing I wanted to mention too, because it, you know, Yahweh Shai mentioned famines, earthquakes, you know, pestilences, all right, what's being said about, conflict over there in that region, is leading up to what? Energy crises, okay? And one thing I was reading into, and Lord willing, I'll do a lesson on this, separate lesson on this, but was going into how, various nations already are imposing, like, orders to, pretty much reduce work weeks, all right? Where some nations, are, forcing employees, people to do remote work from home. Okay, others are encouraging it, and it's behind, energy conservation. All right, because those major choke points. Okay, the Strait of Hormuz, and this other strait. This is Red Sea Strait. Okay, Bab el Mandab. Yeah. All right. It connects. It's a major global choke point between Yemen and the Arabian Peninsula, in the Horn of Africa, connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden in the Indian Ocean. All these major, choke points are being closed off. Things just slowed down, man, and coming to a standstill. All right, and that's going to affect the global economy, and trade. All right. Let me see. So yeah, like I said, I was going to grab a few headlines. This is from the Jerusalem Post. I'll start with this. Shipping traffic slows in Hormuz, Bab al-Mandab, after Houthis say they attacked Saudi tanker. All right, and the Houthis dealing with those, I believe they're Yemeni. All right, they're Iranian-backed militants. It says shipping through the Strait of Hormuz and Bab al-Mandab, all right, which is, again, that strait that connects the Red Sea, plunged on Wednesday with just 3 vessels crossing the key waterways as Houthi attacks in the Iran war disrupted regional trade. It says shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz and the Bab al-Mandab Strait, the key maritime choke points in the Gulf, reduced significantly on Wednesday from the previous day, shipping data showed. Just 2 vessels transited the Strait of Hormuz, including a Panama flag coal-laden carrier entering the waterway and another commodity Marshall Islands flagged vessel exiting. Shipping data from Polaris showed, down from 8 vessels a day early. It says roughly 130 to 140 ships would typically transit the waterway before the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran began on February 28th, and Iran responded by closing the strait. And this is going to lead to, supply chain disruptions, global supply chain disruptions, global food insecurity, like they've been saying, okay? Cost of fuel going up, all right? And, I mentioned how these countries were, issuing stay-at-home, remote work orders. All right, you can see how that in itself is going to lead to, when people have reduced work hours and they're told to stay at home, do remote work because of, energy, they need to conserve energy. You can see how that can be a justification behind, mass layoffs, all right, for one. And second, all right, AI taking over people's jobs, something like economic stimulus payments, all right. And because we know that the dollar, okay, the American dollar, is on its way out. It's practically, far less valuable than it was just a couple years ago, man. All right. Eventually, the dollar is going to be done. All right. And they're going to issue CBDCs, digital currencies. Okay. People are going to be allocated, a certain amount, all right, for there's a word for it that I wanted to bring out, but anyway, just seeing that in itself, the remote work orders, you can see how that could be a justification behind, for one, mass layoffs, all right, giving people checks, all right, here and there, AI replacing people's jobs, and people already feel economic pressure as it is now, but the more and more things transpire, okay, things are going to get very dire. All right, people aren't going to be able to keep up with their house payments, mortgages, whatever the case may be, and you can see how it talks about, relegating people into smart cities. All that stuff comes into play because it's all going to go hand in hand with the RFID microchip, and I was just watching the brother Malakba in my camp, all right, was making a connection between the RFID microchip, these data centers, and those 6G towers, 6G, 5G towers, man. All right, and I looked into it a little more, and I had some information through using ChatGPT. Lord willing, if the Lord will allow, I do a lesson on it, man. But that's one of the major prophecies that have to come in and play before the destruction, man. All right, before the deliverance of the elect, and you can see how it's all coming together. So the MOTB is right around the corner, man. They just, Neuralink just implanted one of his patients, okay, not too long ago. All right, you got rival companies with their own brain-computer interfaces, BCIs, all right, which is going into the brain chip, man. This thing is getting ready to go down, all right. And meanwhile, you have these other, leadership of these other camps. They're not telling you, all right. They're not breaking these things down to you, man. They're not telling you that this thing is on the way, all right. But as the elder apostles and elder bishops on down have said for years, man, that this thing will come to pass, all right. And like the scriptures tell you, man, Ezekiel, the book of Ezekiel, and when this thing comes to pass, then they shall know that a prophet have been among them, man. You're gonna see that, the men of Great Millstone had it right all along, man. All right. So all you scoffers and scorners, you're gonna be dealt with once the judgments start to come down, man. All right. All false leadership, false prophets, misleading the people are gonna be dealt with, man. All right. So anyway, here's another headline. Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan have signed the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement, establishing a trilateral mutual defense alliance. The pact stipulates that an armed attack against one signatory is an attack against all. So, note, it says Turkey. All right, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan signed the Mecca Joint Defense Agreement. All right, so if one of those nations are attacked, that's basically what Article 5 NATO, where it says if one of the NATO, one attack against one NATO member is an attack against all. I believe it's Article 5. I could be wrong. But here it is. You've had Israel, threatening Turkey, man. Okay. So let's just say this agreement is in effect. Let's just say Israel does launch an attack on Turkey. What does that mean? All right. A bigger escalation. Real quick, let me just look this up. So I looked this up, through Google. All right, AI overview says, yes, under the newly signed Mecca Joint Defense Agreement, an armed attack on Turkey would officially be treated as an attack on Saudi Arabia, though how Saudi Arabia would respond in practice remains uncertain. And because, I heard the elders say that, all right, the Crown Prince, these Saudi and Arabian, leadership are crypto Jews, man. All right, the crypto Jews. And we know the war, man, is all, staged, a theater. Okay. Nevertheless, in the case that let's just say Israel does launch an attack against Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, response militarily, man, it will go to show that, of a truth, these devils are divided against themselves, man. All right, the nation of Edom. All right, and that only alludes to their downfall. But it says the defense pact details the agreement. Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan signed a trilateral mutual defense pact in Mecca. The rule. The treaty states that any armed attack against one of the three member nations is regarded as an attack against all three. And mind you that Turkey is a NATO ally as it stands. Right? But what does prophecy say? Ezekiel 38. Eventually they would be aligned with Russia, man. All right? And Russia would be a guard unto Persia, Turkey, and a host of other nations, man. All right. So you could just see, America is tightly knit with Israel, So in the case that Turkey is attacked by Israel, we're going to see just how that particular point in prophecy is going to play out, man. All right. The members, it says, this alliance brings together Saudi Arabia's financial strength, Turkish military and defense technology, and Pakistan's military capabilities. Will Saudi Arabia actually get involved? Uncertain obligations. While the text of the treaty treats an attack on one as an attack on all, the agreement does not explicitly detail what specific military actions each country is legally required to take. Diplomatic calculus. Experts note that actual military involvement would depend heavily on complex political calculations, regional diplomacy, and efforts to prevent a wider war. Deterrence goal. The main purpose of the pact is a collective deterrence, making the potential cost of an attack much higher because aggressors know multiple regional powers stand behind each member state. But this thing is gonna escalate. All right, and that's what we're here to tell you. Okay, that's what the prophecy says, man. All right. Let's get the book of Joel. Let's see. Let's get, matter of fact, let's start with Zephaniah 3 and 8. All right. Therefore, wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahushai, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. All right. So that's what's going on. Okay. This Third World War is brewing up. Why? So the Lord, can have these nations fighting against one another over there in the east. All right. That region is hot right now, man. Things are getting set up. So what? Yahushua upon his return will come with an armada of angels. All right. And what the world even calls so-called, UFOs. All right. And what? They're going to deal with these nations' armies over there. All right. Let me, this is Isaiah 34 and 1. Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world, and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them. He hath delivered them to the slaughter. You see, and this is future tense, okay? Because this hasn't happened yet, but it's written. All right. It was written aforetime, and these words are short, man. Okay, it's gonna play out exactly as it's written here. For the indignation, which is the righteous anger. And why is the Lord angry with these heathen nations, man? Because they all had a part in our downfall and oppression. All right, we were all captives. We were captives underneath all these nations, man. And his fury upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them. He hath delivered them to the slaughter. Their slain also shall be cast out. Their stink shall come up out of the carcasses, and the mountains shall be melted with their blood. See? All the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll. And that's dealing with, the similitude, all right, for the nuclear explosions, man. All right, from the ICBMs, all right, the mushroom clouds. All right. All the hosts of heaven shall be dissolved, and the heavens shall be rolled together as a scroll, and their hosts shall fall down, as a leaf falleth from off the vine, and as a fallen fig from the fig tree. All right. Going into the ICBMs coming down. But my sword, the ultimate sword of the Heavenly Father, is the thermonuclear missile. ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea, which is the Greek word for Edom, and upon the people of my curse, the judgment. All right. Which is dealing with the Edomites, okay, because they were cursed with leprosy. All right. So-called white people, they're actually red, shades of pink, man. Because the blood is, the skin is translucent. All right. The blood shows underneath the skin, because he's a bloody man. That's the curse of Cain. Okay. It says, for the sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat, the kidneys of rams. For the Lord hath the sacrifice in Basra, which is the capital of Edom. All right, which in this, the modern analog would be America. All right, this is the, capital Edomite society. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood, is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats. And, in the ancient days, what would you do with, fat, and the animal fat, of lambs and goats? You burn it, you offer it as a sweet savor unto the Lord, and that's likened unto who equates to all that? The people. All right, the people in this society. They equate to, the fats. All right, the blood of lambs and goats, the fat and the kidneys of rams. Why? Because, as it says, for the Lord hath the sacrifice in Basra. All right, this place, America, is going to be one big sacrifice. For the Lord hath the sacrifice in Basra and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. See? So America is going to be destroyed completely by thermonuclear missiles. All right. So let me see some more headlines, and I'm gonna close out. But it's all a build up until that point. All right. Houthi strikes on Saudi military targets fuel fears of wider Yemen conflict. Iran backed Houthi rebels on Friday and launched drone and missile attacks towards Saudi military targets in the eastern city of Marib, Yemen, raising concerns of a widening war in the region. 2 people were killed and more than a dozen others wounded during the fresh strikes, according to the country's state-run news agency. So the Houthis are, getting more active, man, in the scope of things. It says the military group added that it struck weapons depots, military vehicles, and equipment, and that strikes have been carried out with a large number of missiles and drones, according to the New York Times. The Houthis described the large number of attacks as a response to escalating tensions with Saudi Arabia, reiterated its commitment to the principles of an eye for an eye, targeting Saudi aggression wherever it may be, in a statement shared by SABA. All right. Let's see one more. From the Times of Israel, Pakistan's defense minister threatens illegitimate Israel. That's funny. Because they are illegitimate. They're bastards. They're not the true people, man. And that's why that place is going to be cleaned out. All right. Israel is going to be hit. All right. And these nations know that. They've caught on to the true identity of them Israelis, man. All right, it goes back to I forget his name. He was a Egyptian president, Yeah, Slaki, I forget his name, but we always go into it. He famously said what? That region would never know peace because the Jews left black and came back white, something to that effect. All right, they know them Israelis are imposters, man. They're not the true people. The world is catching on to the dirt, the long track record of you Edomites, man, and how you've overthrown whole regimes, set up coup d'etats and went into other nations and destabilized their economies and so on and so forth, man. Rape, rob, and murder. You do a whole, extensive case study on the so-called white man, and that's all you'll see. Long track record is just rape, rob, and murder. Them going up into these other nations and throwing shit haywire. It says Pakistan's defense minister Khawaja Asif on Saturday told a news outlet in his country that Israel is a threat to the entire Muslim world and called for a united military front against it, just a day after Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey signed a joint defense agreement. In the context of Israel, all Muslim countries must unite. I have no doubt about this, Asif said. Israel is a product of the Balfour Declaration. There you go, man. They know. The Balfour Declaration. They know you small hats are imposters. Israel is a product of the Balfour Declaration, which was established in the 1940s as an illegitimate state, and it could pose a direct threat to any of the countries in the region, he continued, referring to the 1917 British Declaration of Support for the establishment of a homeland for the Jewish people in the land of Israel, setting the stage for Israeli independence 3 decades later. Pakistan was similarly established on the basis of a British declaration in 1947, just a year before the founding of Israel. But the point being that, you small hats are imposters, man. Okay? You're illegitimate. You're bastards. All right? And the world is catching on to your dirt. That's why we call you the 1948ers. All right? Asif, who has in the past called Israel evil and a curse for humanity. In a cancerous state. Yeah. You eat, they are the children of Edom, man. They're the they're Amalekites. All right? It says, Asif, who has in the past called Israel evil and a curse for humanity in a cancerous state. They are the cancer of the earth, man. And they have to be removed. All right? Which Yahweh Shai, upon his return, is going to deal with them. Along with the 144,000, man. We're going to get our hands on these, the elite of Edom, which they go back to, Amalek. All right? Like it tells you, in Job 9:24, the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. That's why, everything is all out of order. They literally are the cancer of the earth, man. Everything they touch, they destroy. But once, Yahweh Shai, takes rulership in the earth, all right, along with the nation of Israel, things are going to be in their rightful order. It says, he told the interviewers that his fierce opposition to Israel will not change, even if Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is defeated in this year's elections, which are set for October 27. No matter who comes to power in Jerusalem, whether it's former Premier Naftali Bennett or any other leader, the differences are only marginal, Asif said. The attitude towards the Palestinians and their anti-Islamic mindset will not disappear. They continue to incite Muslim countries against each other, he charged. And as long as the Palestinian issue is not permanently resolved, the Islamic world must stand against them as one. All right? And like it tells you, the king's heart is in the hands of the Lord. And as rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. But that's why, leadership are, especially amongst these, Muslim countries, all right, share that sentiment against them, Israelis, man. All right? Because what? The scriptures tell you that the Lord will have, war against Amalek for generation to generation. Roughly paraphrase. All right? Which when all is said and done, Amalek is going to be put in chains, man, slavery. All right? And likewise for all these other nations. This whole conflict, all that we're, seeing, all these headlines are leading up to a wider escalation. So the Lord can deal with these nations, man, and subdue them. All right? They're going to be our captives, slaves, subject unto us in the kingdom. So like it tells you in Zephaniah 3 and 8. All right, I'm going to read it again. Therefore, wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, Yahweh B'Shem El Shai, until the day that I rise up to the prey. And yeah, we're patiently waiting, man. All right, we understand that, our condition, being in this lower state, all right, being captives, being subject unto these heathen nations is all temporal, man. All right, we're crying out, we're seeking the Lord, and the Lord is hearing our prayers, man. He's getting ready to move on our behalf. All we got to do is continue to push this work and endure, and the Lord is going to make things happen very quickly. Therefore, wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey. And my determination is to gather the nations that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. All right, so yeah, man, in closing, I'd like to give all honor, glory, and praise once again to our Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, B'Shem, Yahweh Shai, B'Shem Kakudash. Double honor to our apostles and elders, great Muslim, taught us the truth, and we're well. All right, and peace and blessings to the elect. To the next, I say shalom.